I want to give a shout out to President DJT for actually having a pair. Just that. In comparison to all these so-called global leaders who are, in lockstep with Hamas, recognizing Palestine, DJT not only said he will not be recognizing Palestine, but he is basically calling the green light on Israel to take care of Hamas in the way they should have in the very beginning. So shout out to DJT for that. Now, today I want to get a little deeper into the subject of Hamas. I feel like as much as we talk about these people, do we actually know who and what they are and how they operate? But before I do that, I want to get into this little video here just because Marco deserves this moment in the spotlight. So,
Senator Rubio, will you call for ceasefire?
No, I will not.
Gaza?
On the contrary.
Senator Rubio,
are you filming it?
Wait,
I want you guys to get this. I want them to destroy every element of Hamas they can get their hands on. These people are vicious animals who did horrifying crimes. And I hope you guys post that.
And what about the civilians that are being killed every day?
Hamas should stop hiding behind civilians, putting civilians in the way. Hamas knew that this was going to lead to this. So Hamas should stop building their military installations underneath hospitals.
So you don't care that 15,000 have died? You don't care about the babies that are being killed every day?
I think it's
They always use that grandstand, that virtue, echo signal. Hamas is the reason why there are babies who are being sacrificed for the sake of jihad. There are mothers of infants who are seeing their children as martyrs for the cause. They are all lockstep. So he said what he said in the beginning, and they always use that. What about the babies? They don't give a damn about the babies. If you cared about the babies, you'll be saying the very same thing about Hamas. They need to be wiped off the face of the earth. Period. Now, I want to get into a deeper dive, as I said, into Hamas. And there's a man by the name of John Spencer. His name came up in a prior video, and he is one of the foremost experts when it comes to the actual tactical elements of Hamas, which, again, this can't be talked about enough, is that you're dealing with the type of people who attack the innocent because they deem them as being sinners, infidels, non-believers. They will eradicate entire sloots of people. They will ethnically cleanse. They are in the process of genocide. They just can't get away with it because God's got his hands on more people than they can touch. But these are people who are adamant about eradicating you and I because we won't submit under their ideology. That's who we're dealing with here. So think about the sort of war tactics they would use. They're the type of people to steal aid, to use that aid in order to essentially, dare I say, profit off of their very same quote unquote starving people that they are starving. They mark up the prices of the food in order to profit from it. And those profits are used for war tactics, for war purposes, in order to continue to fund their terror. That's what that's about. So I just realized that. Give me 1 second. I just realized that my audio was cutting out for a second there. So bada bing, bada boom. Are we? Yep, we're here. We're good. Okay. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and give this man the podium. And if you'd like to watch the video by itself, you can go ahead and do that by clicking the link in the description below. Let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Back to that human sacrifice strategy. But nobody will, to include these kids on college campuses, won't listen to the words that Hamas say. Like they imagine some aggrieved, and I know you've covered this a lot about that, who's the oppressed and who's the oppressor.
Yeah.
You won't take the organization's words and actions for what they are. So a human sacrifice strategy that nobody has done, Nazis, Japanese, ISIS, where they state and act in a way that they say they need as many of their population to die as possible to achieve their political goal of the war.
Right. Okay, so it's...
This is already just so good. I'm sorry. I can't not. I will let him cook. Trust me. This man is going to cook a 5-star Michelin style dish for us. But That is an incredible point. Why is it that, when it comes to anybody else, when it comes to the Jew, right? It's like we have to insinuate what's actually being said. It's what the left does with much of the sane people in this country here. Well, that's actually a dog whistle. What Donald Trump really means is he wants to put black people back in cages. He wants to put black people in shackles. Did he say that? Well, that's what he means. Meanwhile, the Ayatollahs over there like, oh yeah, we're going to destroy America. We're going to kill America. And they're like, well, they don't really mean that. I mean, even Tucker Carlson, he's sitting across from the president of Iran talking about, well, what do you mean by death to America? What does that mean exactly? Do you really mean it? You probably don't. Why is it when it comes to the actual evil, they have this long runway that they could, well, yes, of course, we're saying death to America. What we really mean is death to you, America. And it's like, well, no, you don't really mean that, though. Tell me, what do you mean? What are you trying to get to? Is this a resistance movement? No, this is not resistance. We're not resisting anything. We're actually going to destroy you. No. But I mean, like, what do you mean by like, we did not use resistance. We just want to destroy anybody who is not submit to Allah. No, but okay, I know you're saying all the words, but what you mean is that your people are being oppressed. No, we are not oppressed. We are actually oppressor ourselves. We are colonizer. We are conquering. So what you're saying is the Jews did it. That's basically what's happening here. Let's continue.
Seems to me that there would be two tiers to that then. So tell me if I've got this wrong. I mean, my sense with regards to the Palestinians in general, and this is especially true in Iran, is that the Iranian powers that be would use all the Palestinians as sacrificial victims at any moment if they could provide an effective thorn in Israel's side and in the side of the West. And then my sense is too that the Hamas leadership, given its history, is sufficiently corrupt financially and economically and under the sway of Iran as well, so that it has no qualms whatsoever about using its citizens as cannon fodder for its designs on Israel and the West. Is that an accurate analysis?
I think so. I mean, Iran's willingness to sacrifice all its proxies, that's pretty rational.
Well, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, apart from what you might regard as humanitarian concerns, which I don't really think apply in the current situation in the least.
Again, take them for their words. The Iran strategy, they call Israel the little Satan.
Yeah, right.
America, the great Satan.
Right,
and they want to destroy both.
Right.
Through the use of this exporting of terrorism and the pursuit of a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
Like they say these things.
Yeah, right. Well, that seems to be exactly what's happening.
But the difference in Hamas, I don't think you can classify it as cannon fodder. Again, listen to the words they say. They need, because they believe in their ideology that martyrdom is the path. Mm-hmm. So they're willing to martyr all of their population to achieve their political goal, not to achieve some geographic ideal of a new place, their goal.
I said this in a former video. There are no casualties to these people. There is the infidel, which is your mother, father, husband, wife, son, nephew, niece, cousin. You are an infidel if you do not submit to Islam. That's what you are. That's all you are. So you dying is an honor to them. Them dying is an honor to them. That's martyrdom. So in that context, it's basically a win-win for them. That's why you have statements such as, and I quote, "You love life and we love death." Because to them, death is, as John Spencer alluded, that is the honorable thing to do. So it doesn't matter how many people die. We have that idea in our minds as Westerners, right? We have that idea in our minds as those who have a semblance of humanity in us to say, well, war is already ugly, right? But the ugliest sort of war is when they're just innocent people being having their lives taken. Meanwhile, you're talking to a people who would have a 15-year-old boy strap himself to a nuclear device or to a explosive device, blow himself up and everybody else up around him. That's the sort of people we're talking about here. That's the sort of mentality we're talking about here. And you say to yourself, well, I have my best friend is Muslim, and they would never do something like that. Well, guess what? Your best friend, your neighbor, whoever it is, would be considered as aligning with the infidel. If they had to follow their doctrine, word for word, bar for bar, they would be the very same person, because that's what the ideology requires of you. And I happen to believe in freedom of religion. That's why we never said, you can't practice that. It's just that ideology is unaligned with what we've got going on here. As you know, Charlie Kirk's viral X post, it is incompatible with the West. Incompatible, incongruent. It cannot work. You can't have freedom and totalitarianism in the same fold. You can't have people who value life and those who value death in the same fold. It does not work. What can you do with Hamas? You can only disarm them, destroy them, dismantle them. They will not surrender. There is no ceasefire. There is only until another day. Did you not see what happened in Syria with the Druze people? One day ceasefire, they went right in and they started massacring those people. Give them an inch and they will run a damn marathon, folks. When will we wake up to this?
Well, stated and written is the destruction of Israel and the death of all Jews in the world. Mm-hmm. And their path to that is the death of their population, that they act.
Okay, so you're saying that it isn't only that the civilians are being manipulated by the Hamas leadership in Iran, but that they're participating in this as a consequence of the fundamental doctrine of Hamas.
Correct.
Right. Okay, so then I guess my question would be, to what degree are the Palestinian citizens, especially the younger ones, and I suppose this is partly what the compassionate people on the university campuses are getting at. I mean, if you're 15, 16 years old and you've been bombarded by Iranian propaganda since you were even younger than that, into believing that your best pathway forward is martyrdom, then to what degree can you be held responsible for the fact that you believe it? And so, I have the same conundrum, for example, with regards to the protesters on American campuses.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of these kids have been propagandized throughout high school into this victim-victimizer narrative, and they buy it completely. And it's very unfortunate, and I think that they're very dangerous in consequence, but I've seen the consequences of that propaganda among young people. It's very demoralizing, and it's also extremely effective. I mean, we did a study in 2016 looking at the predictors of support for politically correct authoritarianism, which is very relevant with regards to what's happening on the campus. And one of the things we found was that even having had one politically correct course at any time in your life was a significant predictor of sympathy with politically correct authoritarian views. Now, there were other predictors.
It's true. One morsel of stupidity can essentially ruin the entire bunch. That's basically what he's saying right there. Just one little fragment of mental unhingedity will lead likely to a rabbit hole, a spiral of mental illness.
Being very bright was one of them. Right. So low verbal IQ, well, that's relevant, Low verbal IQ is a good predictor, comparatively speaking. And so was being female and having a feminine temperament. And the fourth best predictor was ever having been propagandized. And so how much of the doctrine I know maybe I'm taking you out of your area of specialty here, because this is a more political or even a theological question, but how much of the propaganda story that's driving the Palestinian civilian cooperation with Hamas do you think is a consequence of planned propagandization at the hands of the Iranians, and how much? A lot?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the problem with the ramifications of this war, right? Because it would be a proven Iranian strategy. Mm-hmm. Spend decades radicalizing the culture, from primary school on the books, the payment structure, the pay for slave program of the Palestinian Authority. All of those are multi-decade approaches to radicalize a population to achieve your political goals. So absolutely, that's there. From me, as my expertise, though, this is where I think we've definitely reached that point in the war against Hamas and Gaza, is this: how do you defeat an ideology?
That's for sure.
Right. I work in the world of strategy and war.
Yeah.
But I'm fighting on a daily basis of now people who have spent, their PhDs in counterterrorism, counterinsurgency, and saying that you're creating more enemy or more terrorists than you're.
Right.
You're
because of the military. Right. So even if there's a short-term victory, that doesn't mean that you're ensuring the long-term victory. Quite the contrary. Right. And do you think that's happening in Gaza?
It's bollocks. It's a fallacy of thinking, and I think it's anti-intellectual. That's
Explain why.
That's like saying you cannot remove Hitler and the Nazi regime or dismantle its military because you will further radicalize the German population who believe in the Nazi ideology.
Okay, well, you can imagine a circumstance under which that might occur, but the one that you just laid out obviously didn't occur. Quite the contrary. The defeat of the Nazi regime really meant, all things considered, the defeat of the Nazi ideology. Okay, so let's go back to Hamas.
Yes.
What do you think the Israeli strategy is at the moment? How is that playing out? Are they being successful? Do you think it's a good strategy? And do you think it has a chance at defeating this ideology? I mean, if it's fostered by Iran, okay, I haven't been able to envision what a pathway to victory for the Israelis looks like.
Okay.
So,
this is an incredible insight. And, my mind is always racing 1,000 miles an hour, trying to connect these dots, right? So a guy like Tehran Tucker Carlson, there's a reason why I call him Qatar Wilson as well as Tehran Tucker, not just Tucker anymore, because as some may note, Tehran is in Iran. Iran is I'm not going to necessarily allude to the people, because most of the people actually despise and have a deep disdain and hatred for their current government or the regime that is in power right now, right? The ones who basically dismantled the chosen government of the people and replaced it with the Ayatollah and these extremist jihadists. Anyway, I read an article recently. I actually shared it with my folks out there on the Iranian and Russian influence on social media, more specifically in the MAGA movement, and how they've been buying social media influence for quite a while now, which to some is baffling because, especially in the West, we have this idea like, oh, those are desert dwelling people, etc. We don't realize that these are complex organizations with billions of dollars of funding that are backing them. These propaganda machines are well-oiled machines. And to be fair, these are their military operating costs. It's like if we spent $100 billion on, arms, they're spending $100 billion on propaganda. Maybe we are too, probably are. But anyway, the point is this: they're pushing their own propaganda and their own messaging. That's how it's reached our college campuses. That's why our kids are believing what they believe. It's reaching social media, etc. Right? X is filled with these bots. It's saturated with these bots. Now, the reason I bring that up is because Iran's influence cannot be undermined. And you would ask yourself, why would Tucker sit with the president of Iran out of all places? Because he's trying to humanize and normalize the people who are actually in charge. You know what the Jews are oftentimes accused of is like they run the world and they rule the world. And if that was true, this has been said 1,000 times over, but if that was true, they're doing a terrible job at it, right? Because they are losing the PR battle and basically every other battle when it comes to what is currently taking place. But Iran, Russia, China are actually what Israel is blamed or accused of being. These very manipulative sort of governments, totalitarian governments who look to control the people, coerce the people, who have these psychological operations taking place, etc. And I'm not saying America's not in that and hasn't been historically, but to the extent and for the purpose of. it's like we had our own propaganda against, let's say, communism. I actually happen to believe in that. I believe that communism is a dangerous ideology that will tear a society apart. And I am a believer in the system that we have in place when it is executed by those individuals who actually care for preserving the system as opposed to preserving their own tail, as opposed to filling their own pockets up, right? Using the people as a means of power and an influence and resources. But anyway, Iran is one of those superpowers, just like Qatar. There's a lot of money coming from these places that is used for the sake of, military. A lot of that is psychological now. So if you look at quote unquote Palestine, who is their leadership? It is Hamas. Hamas is funded by the likes of Iran, by the likes of, probably Qatar, etc. But Iran 100% is funding Hamas. So you can look at it as being the same government, basically. And the people are being used as pawns in that larger war. And I mean, it's bigger than simply war. This is actually, to them, this is a holy war. This is prophecy fulfilled for them to eradicate the Jewish people and then, make their way over the water, which they have at a larger extent in Europe and at a lesser extent in the United States, but nevertheless still are. And it started with, again, the psychological operation. So, yeah, let's continue.
Tell me what you think about that.
So I actually got to go visit. I've been into Gaza twice. In December in Hamas tunnels, and in February with the IDF in Khan Yunis. I interviewed the prime minister. I'm like, what are your strategic goals you gave to the military? I interviewed the head of the IDF, multiple subordinate commanders. The objectives for Israel, the path to victory, which is always hard to define in war, right?
Right,
because
right.
Now at this point,
a tricky problem.
There's already people who have said it's a strategic failure for Israel already. And the war's not even over.
Yeah.
It is very clear what was the objectives. Number one, bring the hostages home. So of the 240 hostages taken on October 7th, it's a clear war goal to bring them home.
Okay.
And Israel has brought over half of them home. There's 124 left in Gaza. The other one was to remove Hamas from power and dismantle its military capability.
Right. Okay. But then the question is, who exactly is Hamas? How do you distinguish them from the civilians? And what are so you said you can respond proportionately. So you're going to remove Hamas's military capacity. But if Hamas is in some ways indistinguishable from the Palestinian civilian population, then how do you know when you've won? Right. And in a manner that's going to matter in the future.
I love this. I love this specificity that most people don't ask. How do you distinguish in a situation like this where Hamas is using human sacrifice, human shields, wearing civilians? There's not a single Hamas military building in Gaza.
Right.
Not one. So how do you move forward? I actually want the laws of war upheld. There's actually very clear guidance, even with a non-state actor not wearing a uniform, what classifies as a combatant or non-combatant, or as a person partaking in the hostilities. As in, you're shooting at the IDF. You're a combatant.
Right.
A
That seems clear. Yeah.
Now, who's in Hamas? This is actually my visits to the IDF. Like, they have a board, like walls of every member of Hamas's military, from brigade commander, battalion commander, company commanders, and either X's for killed and captured, as they're breaking apart. The goal of dismantling a military is never, just like we talked about in the beginning, to destroy all of them, to kill every member of Hamas. It's never been the goal in war. And always after the war, once you've removed that power, whether it is the Japanese emperor or Hitler himself, there's still going to be tens of thousands of it. You have to reconcile them. You have to do de-radicalization programs. You have to disarm people.
Right. And that is possible.
It's possible, proven, everything.
Right. Worked in Germany, worked in Japan.
I can't tell you what that looks like the day after, but I can tell you it will never even begin to work if Hamas stays in power.
And the reason it's going to be far more difficult is because of a concept that I'm going to be doing a deeper dive into. Shout out to my people, or a specific individual who put me on to this. But the concept of taqiyya, which essentially means that you can lie so long as it is on the behest or behalf of, the preservation or the expansion of Islam. So you can lie to a non-believer. You can pretend to be friends. You can pretend to be whatever if it's for the quote unquote holy war efforts, for the jihad. So that's going to be difficult, right? It's like, hey, everybody, we have this global law that is put into place that you must admit that you are a soldier. You are a combatant. How many of them do you think are going to raise their damn hands? You have a better opportunity of the Viet Cong coming out and, hey, me, come get me. I'm right here. I'm tired of guerrilla warfare. Please come get me here. So, yeah, again, I know God's hand is on all of this. And so it's going to end how it needs to end. Because if you think about it, it's like, here's this tiny little nation that somehow has survived time and time and time and time and time again. And outside of scripture, I don't know how else to tell you how this is happening. I don't. People have been turned on as many times. People who have literally been genocided. People, I don't know how to tell you. And then prospered on top of that. I have no other way to define it, to describe it, besides if you just look in that good old book. That's it. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace. Aquarius. Where?
I've been up for hours, I've been up for days, staring at the ceiling, I've been counting strays, I've been in my feelings, I've been out of mind, I've been getting visions of the other kind, I've been up for weeks, I'm in the count of blessings over count of sheep, I can never be the type to limit when it comes to me, I used to be the pleaser for the people